Hello everybody, this is MonteCristo, and it's been a while, but I'm back with another point analysis, once again looking at Meta Athena. A lot of people have been excited about Meta Athena either because of their double a sniper attack on King's Row that I showcased in a previous point analysis video, or because of the creative May boosts that we've seen from them on maps like Eichenwald and Numbani. Today, though, we're looking at a Sombra strat. This Sombra strategy is going to be a Sombra Blitz attack on point A of Hanamura, which took place in the Apex Season 2 quarterfinals against their opponent Kongdoo Panthera. So we're going to take a quick look at the overview and sort of set the stage for this match, watch through it once, and then go back and pick out some of the finer details. So to start out with here, let's just take a look at the various team compositions. Kongdoo Panthera is running an extremely standard defense. May also comes up a lot for Kongdoo Panthera on this point, but it's fortunate for Meta Athena that it's not coming up here. Bling will be on the Torbjorn, so remember it is a single support defense with only the Ana providing any kind of heals. But Kongdoo Panthera with this Torbjorn they've been using it more and more frequently, as have many other Korean teams. And to start things off, we're going to see Bling placing his turret here from the defender's perspective to the left outside of the gate, and this is to get some early ult charge as Meta Athena comes in. However, due to the speed of Meta Athena's attack, it will effectively remove Torbjorn from the first team fight because he has to be back rebuilding his turret during the very decisive attack by Meta Athena, and in fact, that's probably one of the reasons why they're so successful on this first push. Otherwise, Kongdoo Panthera extremely standard, having the double tank, particularly the Reinhardt, just so that you can make sure that the doorway, the main gateway, is blocked. Waka Waka will be standing back there trying to fish for picks behind the Reinhardt shield with the Roadhog, and Rascal, of course, will be on, if from this perspective, the pavilion on the top left, rocket jumping up there, just so he has a huge line of sight on the point, and Luffy will be on the opposite side of the point, on the bridge on the high ground, on the right side as you're looking in. On the other side, we have Meta Athena. Now, we're not really seeing their team composition yet. We'll just go ahead and skip a little bit forward to that so we can see when they actually decide to select the proper heroes, which will be right now. So, what is this going to do? First off, for Meta Athena, because Sombra is actually going to be jumping over the gate to get an early hack in, they're going to try and disable the Reinhardt. Doesn't exactly work like that when we see it, but that's the general intention. They also have Saya player on the McCree to help with any pesky, in case, unlikely, but in case there would be a Tracer or a Genji on the defense, but also to be able to flashbang over the Reinhardt wall as one more way to be able to attack very quickly and take out the front line of Meta Athena. They still have Hoon, of course, on his signature Zarya, double support, and the Reinhardt shield so they can push up into the choke point and take advantage of the aerial assault here by the likes of the Sombra. So what we're going to see as we go through our first look here is Sombra head up onto the high ground so she can get the most air in order to affect this attack. And we'll go over that in just a little bit so I can show you exactly how that's going to work. Now, definitely here wanted to hack the Reinhardt instead, but because of the Zarya bubble, has to go after the Zarya, still prevents the projected barrier from going down on the Zarya itself. And for the rest of this clip, you'll see that effectively, Meta Athena is constantly one kill ahead of Kongdoo Panthera, and when you're trading 1-for-1, much less more than 1-for-1 is the case of Meta Athena, you're going to be able to get those respawns in faster, so it's a win almost no matter what. Of course, it can get a little bit different with specific team compositions, but for the most part, trading 1-for-1 on attack on assault on first point particularly is excellent and what you should expect to do. So, with that said, obviously there was a lot happening there, and we are going to slow it down. Let's go ahead and take a look at what they try and do with this Sombra, because it's actually pretty cool. And if you want to try and run this strategy yourself with friends, it's helpful to see exactly how Sombra gets the most air. So, as we can see with Sombra, what you want to do is throw the translocator as high as you possibly can, because that gives you the longest time to make a decision about who you're going to hack and sort of survey the field of battle while you're falling down. And that's particularly important here because you may not get the right target, especially with that Zarya bubble, and you may have to make a different shot call on the fly to your team. So even a few milliseconds can make a big difference. Now, traditionally, the way that Sombra would be played on attack on this map is that you have these 2 health packs, right? And you can hack them on the side and lower the respawn time on the health packs, and you'd say, let's throw the translocator in here, you're going to run in, fire a little bit, take a little bit of damage, translocate back out, and pick up the health pack, rinse and repeat until you have EMP, and you'll push around your EMP. That's not what Meta Athena does, and this is partially why they catch their opponents by surprise, is because you don't expect the Sombra just to fall from the air in the first 10 seconds of the game. You can't stand on the low ground, because we notice that Libero goes up onto the high ground, because you actually can't throw your translocator over the top to get maximum airtime if you're on the low ground, and otherwise you'd have to fire through this little window right here, which would give you less of an opportunity to survey the field of battle before you hit the ground. So instead, he has to go around on the high ground, and he sprints using his shift over to this point, which means that he's at the exact right time to be up here despite taking the longer route while his team engages at the first choke point. Now from here, much easier to actually hit over the side. I sort of messed it up right there, but you can actually get it all the way over pretty easily, and then that means that you'll be able to drop down from above. And I'll just try it again so you guys can actually see what that looks like. Sorry, I messed it up the first time. It is actually sort of mildly tricky. There we go. So you fall right here, effectively, and this is usually where you're going to see the defense happening from most teams. So there we have that. I'm going to go ahead and exit right now so you guys get a sense of why exactly Libero was on that high ground. So you can see he's sprinting right here, and we're going to go ahead and play this. And we're going to slow it down. So we're going to go to about 50% speed just so we can get all of the little details that happens. So as you can see, he's going to shift up onto the high ground. Now you'll notice that the turret actually was placed here and it doesn't get destroyed. We don't see it in the kill feed. Instead, what happens is Bling gets a little bit of charge, just a tiny little bit, and then rebuilds it immediately into the base. But even this small window of time makes sure that Torbjorn is not going to be in the front line, and they're just going to bull rush. They're going to blitz the front line with the help of this Sombra, taking away some of their utility. And of course, nobody fucking expects this to happen at all. So you come down, and you'll notice here that as we look at the Zarya, so one thing, you cannot hack through a Zarya bubble. So hacking Reinhardt, where you want to take away his shield, is right out. So instead, Libero has to take a look down and survey on the fly. He sees the Zarya. This is the next best target, because if he tells his team to focus the Zarya while she can't bubble herself, then they can get a quicker and easier kill. And as you can see, there's only 3 players on the low ground right now. Now, Diana is over here, and the soldier is up here on the high ground, and Torbjorn is in the point right now, rebuilding his turret, which means that the Ana can't get the best angle as the fight is happening here without either dropping down or running further back to the window overlooking the point on the high ground this way. And in fact, Luffy rather is going to try and drop down to get a better angle because the fight is happening so quickly. Now, on the other side, you can see that Meta Athena is very well aware of what's going on, already clustered up, already running forward, trying just to overpower the front line as quickly as they possibly can. Let's go ahead and roll this. So you can see the hack coming through, and the antibiotic grenade goes onto the front line here of Kongdoo Panthera, and they're able to take out Evermore virtually instantaneously. So you already have a man advantage. This is already somewhat successful, unless your entire team gets wiped or other trades happen very quickly. Goes even worse for them. Saya player in the DPS now on the side. Now, here what we see is Waka Waka with actually pretty good positioning. He wants to pick off these vulnerable DPS characters because the tanks are over here from Meta Athena trying to deal with this soldier or block off some of that damage. See, the turret is on the point here, firing away. So the crossfire from the soldier and the turret and the threat of the Roadhog hook is actually pretty good, But because the 2 kills on Evermore and Luffy already came through, it's still a very difficult battle for Kongdoo to win. Now, ideally, I think the tanks would have come around a little bit faster, but to the credit of Kongdoo, Fisher is actually tying up the tanks on the other side, eventually does get killed by Changshik in a hammer battle. Now, nice hook here onto Nuss, that takes out 1 more, but even though more people are alive for Kongdoo right now, technically Meta Athena is still going to be at an even advantage on the point, and by the time that Changshik gets around to the side, we see they thought they were trying to get the vulnerable McCree over here, but instead they group up for some nice double hits on the hammer from Changshik, who can just walk in. At this point, Rascal is forced to drop down off the high ground. He's the last one remaining on the point, and that's just obviously not going to go well with him with a Reinhardt there, and he has to contest. Otherwise, you see the Reinhardt simply taking the point immediately and has to bounce out, but Saya player there, 3 versus 1. What are you going to do? Easily just taking out the turret and then capturing this first point. So what could Kongdoo Panthera have done differently? First off, having the turret up at the start, and then being able to put the Torbjorn more in the choke point to be able to contest the front line and not be at a huge disadvantage would have helped. Quite obviously. Also, a key factor was Luffy dropping down to the low ground instead of heading back up to a point where he could actually fire into the primary choke point more easily to heal up his team, maybe have gotten a better biotic grenade down or something like that. But again, it's very difficult to play against Meta Athena because even if they do seem like this, recklessly aggressive at times, you're so surprised by their tactics and how bold they are and how unified they are in that shot calling that it becomes incredibly difficult to deal with them. And even in a worst case scenario for Meta Athena where, let's say, the Sombra drops in and gets instantly killed, well, you're still going to be in a situation where you can always go back to the strategy we discussed, hack the health packs on the outside and wait for that EMP. It's not like they're going to lose the whole round. This happened in the first 30 seconds or 45 seconds effectively of this round. And you can always go back to a different style of attack or even change off the Sombra entirely. So Meta Athena continues to be very innovative in the way that they particularly attack points, whether that's the first point of a hybrid map, like Numbani or Eichenwald or some of these, or King's Row, or some of these assault maps. And I think that this says a lot about the value of having these more static point attacks, because when you have time on the approach and it's not just like a big brawl where both teams are arriving at the same time, where you can control better when you engage, or as opposed to a payload which is just continuously moving, you can really dream up some very creative strategies that require a little bit of setup and then a like a split second execution. And that's what's been so fun to watch about this Meta Athena team. So I hope that explained things for you guys a little bit. I definitely think this is something that anybody can execute if you've got a 6-stack or you have a 4-stack with your friends. As long as everybody's on the same page, go ahead and try using the Sombra in this way to surprise your opponents. And as long as your tank line is just pushing forward extremely aggressively, you will often catch your opponents off guard and maybe take that first point super quick. Thanks a lot, guys. Leave comments below, of course, and subscribe if you want to see more of this content.